those joining us today. And let me start with, because we have a little bit of time, let's start first with Jill. If Jill, you would like to share with us some about your background and your interest in serving on the commission, and then we'll turn to Gabriel Martin. So Jill, we'll start with you.
Okay, good evening. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome. My name's Jill Philbrook, and I've been a resident of the Coachella Valley for 27 years and Cathedral City for 12. And I'm excited to represent the city I live in on the commission. I have a very long background in hospitality and tourism in my career, so I'm excited to be part of this commission to help advise and have input into the airport, the city, and some of the challenges we have today, and working towards a great future.
Great, thank you. Gabriel.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel Martin. I'm with the City of Coachella. I am the Economic Development Director. I've been working at the city for a little over 3 years. Previously, before that, I worked for the County of San Bernardino and Riverside. Went to school at UC Riverside, got my master's at Cal State San Bernardino, and I recently finished my doctorate at University of Laverne. And I really was honored to be part of this committee when my old city manager, Mr. Bill Patterson, asked me to be part of it. I immediately said yes. So look forward to being part of this group and seeing wonderful things everyone does here.
Good, thank you. Welcome to both of you. Just as a reminder of the process, each of their respective city councils recommended to the Palm Springs City Council the appointment of these individuals to the Airport Commission. And our city council actually acted upon that at their last meeting. And so we're delighted to have you with us here today. Let me first, as we move on, this is in absentia because Bill isn't here today, but we have a plaque to Bill Patterson. I will hold it up so everybody can see that for his service here. It's presented to Bill Patterson, Airport Commissioner for the City of Coachella, for dedicated service to the Palm Springs International Airport from January 2017 to December of 2020. And again, Bill actually retired and is now into retirement. So we will get this plaque to him. And we really appreciate Bill's years of service with us here on the commission. The other items that I had here are going to be actually presented. We're going to share with you a little bit later about the benches that were painted. You recall that we actually had, at the request of the Arts Commission, David Reddy and I reviewed all of the submissions, and I think the benches look terrific. I don't know, David, what you thought when you came, or if you've seen them, but I think they're really terrific. I took some photographs, but we actually have some photographs that Ulysses is going to share with us later. And then we can come back and talk about that at some point. I think with that, we will move on to introductions and presentations. So Ulysses, I'll turn to you for introductions.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Jones. As you all know, Mark, due to serve the airport and the commission for well over 8 years, retired back in November 10th was his last day with the city. And we've been in a process of trying to recruit and select and hire somebody. And I'd like to present to the commission the individual that we have selected to replace Mark. Her name is Victoria Carpenter. We are excited for her to come on board. She's been with us since last Monday. So she has a whole 1 week underneath her belt at this moment in time. But she has jumped in and is doing an outstanding job, and we've been trying to catch up with that and some other challenges we've been faced. But with that, I'd like Victoria to say a couple of things about her experience. Victoria, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. Good evening, Chairman Jones and members of the commission. My name is Victoria Carpenter, and I am thrilled to be a part of the Palm Springs Airport team. To tell you a little bit about myself, I came from the Coachella Valley Water District, and I was working there in the finance department and the engineering department. Prior to that, I was the lodging facility manager aboard the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms, where I served our Marine sailors and their families. I have a undergraduate degree in criminal justice law enforcement, and I have a master's degree in business administration with a concentration in finance. I look forward to working with you all. So if you have any specific questions, or if you're ever at the airport, please feel free to drop by and say hi, of course, with social distancing. Other than that, thank you so much. And if you have any specific questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn this back over to Mr. Aguirre.
Thank you. Just want to add just a couple of things. Mark's responsibility delved into a lot of different things, from finance to contracts to property issues and so forth, as well as dealing with concessionaires and here with our concessions contractors. So, but Victoria brings a broad experience in all of those areas, and we look forward to working with her. And I think she's going to be a great asset to the city and to the airport. So I'm glad to have her on board. With that, Chairman Jones, that's the only introduction I have.
Great, thank you, and welcome, Victoria. We're delighted to have you on board. You'll find working with this commission will be a delight. Of all of the boards and commissions I've been associated with in my career, this is one of the most collegial boards I've ever served on, or commissions. And everybody has been very, very dedicated to improving the airport to service the Coachella Valley and beyond. So I think you'll find this a great experience as you get to know all of the commissioners here and others at the airport. We'll move next then to, I think that's all the introductions and presentations, or did you have the presentation first? I'm sorry.
No, that's all that I have.
Okay, we'll do that down in your report. Then we go to the city manager. City manager, ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just first, welcome to the new members, and to Victoria, welcome to the team. I would just note that we are well into January, so starting next month, we're going to have to begin the budget process. Certainly, we're going to want some significant input from the commission. So that process will start February, March, and we'll be ready to go forward there. And again, I think obviously the airport's in a little better shape than we thought it would be, thanks to the help from the federal government. That being said, we'll move forward diligently and try and get a budget to council on time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you, David. Any questions for the city manager? I do not see any. All right, then we're going to move on to the budget and finance report. And I believe Celeste Reed. Celeste, you're going to take that report.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the two members, and a very special welcome to Victoria. She and I are going to work closely together, and she will likely be making this presentation next week, but I'm sure you can all understand that her first week here, we didn't want her to fall into things and just jump right into it. So we're going to work with this transition time for right now. So customarily, for the benefit of the two new commissioners, I work from the third page of the financial report because it is the summary of the detail. We are 6 months into our fiscal year, of course. And starting with the CFC reports, it bears a little bit repeating. Most of you already know and have heard me say this, but with respect to trends for the revenue under the car facility charges, you can see we're at 31% of our budget. Whereas for passenger facility charges, we're closer to 19% of our budget. So there's a couple of factors to that end. In the CFC funds, we have $100,000 worth of interest income that has been collected, and that's based on the approximately $24 million that we have in that fund, which we know is set aside for a future building. So therefore, accordingly, it creates quite a bit of interest. So that has helped cushion the variance, if you will, through the budget. And they are 30, 60 days out. Whereas with the PFC funds, they're 60, 90 days out. And you can see we're at 19% of our budget 6 months into the year. The good news is in the PFC funds, we do have the funding set aside. We currently have $17.5 million set aside for the future projects. That's the result of the bond proceeds that we collected from last year. And we have $2 million set aside just in debt reserve payments. So the fund is very, very healthy. You can see we have a $2.5 million expenditure, and that is a locked-in expenditure, the majority of which remaining balance will be the remaining principal and interest payment. And I did share with you in November leading up that in December, we'd have a $500,000 interest payment, and you can see it there. So we've had that uptick in that fund. Moving on to airport operations and maintenance. I like to see, it's kind of interesting that our revenue and expenditures are tying out so closely together as a ratio of our budget. So we're at 33% of the budget for revenue and 35% at expenditures. So that tells me everything is pacing out rather consistently. You can see there is a variance over this time last year. Of course, you all know that we had not had the C-19 hit into full effect since this is through December. So this time last year, we had close to a $900,000 positive bottom line. This year, we have a $673,000 loss, so it's a swing of about 1.6 million. But as Dr. Reddy mentioned, of course, we still have about 7.8 million left on our CARES Act funding that we can draw down on. That is typically done on a quarterly basis, so you can expect that there will probably be some funding. There might be some timing issues where the deposit due to timing might impact in February. But we do have that CARES funding that had been set aside that is going to offset the operational activity of the airport. And then moving on to capital projects, the revenue and expenditures are the drivers of the capital projects that are happening there in the Ticket Wing project. Moving to the cash summary, you can see we have our CFC restricted. We have the 24 million, as I mentioned, PFC restricted, that's 1.8 million. That does not include the 2 million we have for debt reserve budget or the remaining 17.5 million we have for funding our capital projects. So it's something exclusive to this report to kind of isolate the data from the operational activity. We have 3.6 million in capital restricted. As you might be thinking, well, we have a lot of money coming up and a lot of expenditures to be made for the capital projects. The money transfers from Fund 410 over to fund the capital projects, so we're covered there. And then in the airport fund, we have 11 million, and then we have the equity set aside that we take care of. So we're flush with cash of $5.2 million. Coming up and looking ahead in January, there's going to be some allocations that will maybe be made. We'll have some interest income allocations, and there's some overhead allocations that we'll post in January, and then possibly, depending on the timing, we're getting kind of close now. I'm not sure about the timing of submitting and the time delay when you submit anything to the federal government. So the CARES Act funding, since we base that on the quarter from October through December. So that is all I have for right now. Is there anything, Ulysses, that you'd like for me to mention otherwise, or does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Celeste at all on the budget?
The only thing I just want to say is I just want to acknowledge Celeste for stepping up and filling in for Mark in this time period. She's done an outstanding job of doing the presentations and supporting us. So I just want to say thank you very much for your assistance throughout this time.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure to see all of you and see everybody in this context. And this is a great commission. So thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, and I would echo also what Ulysses said. Your reports have been very clear and concise. Although tonight this group is unusually quiet, I don't recall them quite this quiet. We'll see as we get into the other agenda items. But thank you very much, Celeste. That's very, very helpful.
You're very welcome.
We move now into the discussion and action items, and this is the RFP scope of work for the marketing communications plan. I would note that the Patricia Breslin, who's chair of the marketing committee, did meet with the marketing committee on January the 12th. And at the appropriate time, I think, Daniel, you're going to take the, who's doing the lead on this discussion? Daniel?
Yes, I'm a presentation.
Okay, and I assume you will then turn to Patricia at some point to speak on behalf of the marketing committee and their recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, then Daniel.
That's the protocol. So this is my first time kind of bringing something like this to you guys. So
I was kind of outlining it for all three of us because we're all in different rooms, so we can't really see each other.
Okay, so I've got also my I've got a presentation. I have information on the scope of work for the RFP we want to put forward. Also, just some my general staff report. I've kind of got them combined together. I hope that's okay. And I'll just go through a few updates, and then I'll go into the RFP. So let me share my screen really quick with you guys. Okay. Okay. All right, so Al reached out to me earlier this week or last week and asked me to put together a quick air service update for you guys. As you know, with the stay-at-home orders, there's been quite a few changes. It's been pretty fluid for us. So Air Canada is continuing to delay their return. They're currently set now to return on April 12th. The original season was supposed to end at the end of April. So we haven't had I haven't spoke with anybody at Air Canada's headquarters at this time to confirm this, but I'm kind of wondering if we may actually even see Air Canada at the airport this season, since that would only give them about a 2 to 3 week season if they do in fact start on April 12th. Of course, those delays are due to COVID, the spike in COVIDs and the stay-at-home orders, et cetera. Most of these changes are due to that. Alaska, they are still planning to launch San Jose on February 11th. I actually had a phone call with them yesterday discussing some of their plans and promotions, press release we want to issue, and a few other things. They started Reno on December 17th. They have put on a temporary hiatus after January 4th due to COVID and stay-at-home orders and the significant drop in demand. But that is set to restart on February 11th and so far scheduled to continue the rest of the season. Boutique, their LAX season ends on March 1st and they are ending Phoenix on January 28th. I know that service was announced prior to my time here. I thought those were year-round, but I'm talking with the CVB and we actually are reaching out to Boutique to get some clarifications and see what's going on their end to see if in fact that was originally planned to be this way or if these are just changes that they are making. Frontier, their Denver service is currently operating at 2 times a week. It's set to go back up to 4 times a week starting on January 31st. JetBlue delayed their Fort Lauderdale launch. At the last commission meeting, it was supposed to start, the service was supposed to start that following Sunday. And then that next week, they delayed it again to March 7th. So right now it is on the calendars. I'm working with Elevon Pacific, the air service consultant that's hired the CVB. We are scheduling a conference call with them. I believe we have one this Friday morning to discuss their plans on Fort Lauderdale and then also just get a review of the other service from Palm Springs. Sun Country is going to reduce their service from 7 times a week to 4 times a week. They'll be operating Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Currently on February 28th, they're scheduled to return to 7 times a week. It is not daily service. They are not operating on Tuesdays, but they're operating double Sunday flights. So they're giving us 7 flights a week. And WestJet is continuing to delay their Edmonton service, and Vancouver is currently suspended. Edmonton is now scheduled to come back on March 5th. Vancouver did operate November 5th through January 3rd. Currently on suspension. Right now it's set to return on March 5th. Calgary is currently they're operating at 4 times a week, Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays, and Mondays. Calgary is one of the primary hubs, so doing feeds and connections through there. And Winnipeg has not been in the schedule so far for 2021. We may not see that return until next season. Southwest has taken Phoenix down to 2 times daily through January and February, but they're set to return that to 3 times daily on March 7th. They currently have no changes to Denver or Oakland. A lot of this is it's just due to, just the changes in COVID, the stay-at-home orders, drops in demand and things like that. So airlines are reacting to that. It's not any fault of, the Coachella Valley or airport. I want to put in some information on available seats to give you guys a little bit more perspective on this. And just remind you, the schedules are changing nearly every week. As I said earlier on the December commission meeting, I told you about the JetBlue, and that following Monday, they'd actually changed it. And so the schedules get changed, reloaded every Monday. Typically an airline puts a schedule and it's out there for 6 months and it doesn't change other than maybe within a few minutes of itself. Now airlines are changing them on a weekly basis because, again, just the environment that we're in. Domestic seats right now in January are up 6.4%. We're still scheduled to be up 3.5% in February and 13% in March. A few months ago, back in November, I was looking at this data and our January scheduled available seats was actually supposed to be up 42% compared to the same time frame the previous year. But again, the impacts of COVID have dampened that. On the right side, I did total available seats, and that includes the international service that we have from Air Canada and WestJet. You can see we do have a decline in total seats, that's domestic and international, in January, and then a decline of 11% February. We're still showing a positive in March of 8.7%. So depending on how COVID goes and stay-at-home orders, maybe we'll be able to retain some of that and see a few of the Canadian cities come back in March, hopefully. fingers crossed, but again, these are all preliminary and they do change almost weekly. So I guess beware. I want to give a little wrap up on the picture yourself promotion. This is the JetBlue promotion we did. We ran it in similar fashion to the Southwest promotion. A resident of Palm Springs did win. He got 2 round-trip tickets on JetBlue. It was stipulated, and it said these are electronic vouchers. JetBlue set it on their end where they're only valid to depart and return from Palm Springs. So the winner cannot use them from LAX or somewhere else. They're valid till the end of this year, and they're good for travel anywhere JetBlue flies. Overall, this promotion was a great success. I think we increased our likes and follows on Facebook by 40%, Instagram by 18%, and Twitter by 11%. I want to do a little comparison to our Southwest promotion and JetBlue promotion. On the users reached on Southwest, we had over 41,000, 25,000 on JetBlue. And the impressions, we had almost 60,000 for Southwest, we had well over 60,000 for JetBlue. The users reached, that's just how many eyeballs got to see our ads and promotions for this. The impressions and how many times those ads and the boosted posts were fed to those people the users that were reached. What's more notable though is actually the engagement, the most important. You see at the very bottom, Southwest had engagement rate of 5.8%, where JetBlue has 14%. So you see a high impression that says, people saw the ad, but a lot of them may just be flicking on past the ad, not paying attention to it. What you really want is to have a large engagement. In JetBlue, our engagement rate on the JetBlue one was more than double the engagement rate on the Southwest one. And when somebody engages with it, that means they're liking it, they're sharing it, they're commenting on it, they're actually seeing that ad and taking in the information and learning about the service that we have at Palm Springs, and JetBlue flies at Palm Springs in the airport. So again, that goes into, again, my goals of getting top of mind awareness for people when it comes to Palm Springs. I want them, when they think I'm going to fly, I want them always to check Palm Springs flights first before they look at any other airport. And so having more users engage with what we're doing is definitely a good measurement of our success. And I'm very pleased to see what these numbers came out. Part of that, the increase is that when we had Southwest, we started on Facebook. Our social media was very new, didn't have a lot of followers or audience. We grew that by 1,000 through Southwest, since we had a lot more followers by the time we started the JetBlue one, which helped us get, again, more positive returns and engagement rates on that. So as we continue to do more promotions, that'll continue to grow, and our reach will grow. And so I'm excited to see that. Had a call with Alaska Airlines yesterday. They had some ideas for me. So we are currently in talks about doing a possible promotion for Alaska and all of their new service here in Palm Springs as well. The advertising update, at the last commission meeting, I just put a winter advertising campaign update. We're actually going to be running this through June. So it's more like a winter, spring, and summer update. So just to let you know, the Google and our search engine advertisements started on December 22nd. Anybody in the Coachella or in the Palm Springs catchment area, basically we did all of San Bernardino and Riverside counties. If they are searching flights to Denver, New York, anywhere we have a service to, we're popping up and feeding ads to them. So they'll see on the top of their search bars, Palm Springs to New York, etc. If they're in our catchment area, they're searching flights from, say, Ontario, LAX, it's going to feed us up there to get their eyeballs on Palm Springs. So hopefully they'll search flights from our airport. And then also, again, people are searching, they search the word Palm Springs Airport, then they'll put our ads up there front and center for them. And those are going to run through June. Digital and social media ads are starting tomorrow. Digital will run through May, social media will run through June. Billboards are going up in early February. They'll be displaying in February and March. They are very expensive, so we're not doing too much on those. Television starts in early February. We'll air ads through May, and then radio ads are going to start in early February as well, and those will air through June. And that'll be most of our advertising for this year. And then, of course, our next fiscal year starts on July 1, and we will have a whole new advertising campaign based on the media plans that we get together, our marketing plans going forward. Some other stuff we're working on is community outreach, just getting involved with the community. I think it's definitely important to get out there and talk to folks. So we, if you guys, I know many of you are familiar with the We Are Palm Springs campaign that the Visit Palm Springs is putting together in the Bureau. JNS came out and they filmed at Palm Springs on Thursday of last week. We had representatives from Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Parodies, which is our concessionaire, was involved as well. And we had some Department of Aviation staff in that. I've got the first draft of the video. They're going to be editing and finalizing it, so you should see that coming out soon. Leadership Coachella Valley has reached out to us and the CVB as well. And so we'll be joining Gary from the CVB on a panel discussion during their transportation and energy day that they have for the organization. And we'll be discussing air service development, what goes into it, how important it is to the Valley, and the importance of everybody supporting and flying local. That'll be on February 12th. And then Rob Hampton from the Bureau of Tourism reached out and asked me to join their strategic advisory committee for their planning going forward. So I accepted that. It'll be quarterly meetings with them, be on the committee, and providing the airport's perspective and how we can help assist in their tourism efforts and work together to grow air service for Palm Springs. And that'll be a 2-year term. And so anybody have any questions on any of those items before I go into the RFP portion?
Yeah, Daniel, thank you for that update. And to the other commissioners, I did ask Daniel to do this. I think my sense is too, and some of us participate on Main Street with the businesses here, but I think when the airlines initially made their schedules for the introduction of new flights and new destinations, I think we were in the red zone at that point. We had dropped down a category from purple to red. And I don't think anybody anticipated we'd be going back down into a lockdown. And we've been there now for 2-3 week terms, and I suspect we're going to be there again for another 3 weeks. So people can't come in, as you know, the restaurants can't serve. And at the time restaurants were serving both indoors and outdoors, and then outdoors, and now not at all, just takeout. And then the hotels themselves can only do those who are essential workers. And the city of Palm Springs, as I understand from Main Street presentation earlier this week, is actually going around to hotels and citing for violations if in fact they are letting people in who are not essential workers. So it's been a curious time, and I'm glad they're still with us. And Daniel, you're initiating conversations with them just to kind of see what's on their plans moving forward, which I appreciate. I think the other commissioners. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions of Daniel relative to this part of the report before we go to the RFP?
I do.
Yeah, Rolf.
2 questions. One, Dan, can you make this presentation available to us? And number 2, how is Southwest doing to the extent that you know in terms of load factors?
Yes, so on your first question, yeah, I'll print a PDF and give it to Nadia and have her send out to you guys. And then on the Southwest one, we are actually, I was emailing with them today and with Ollie with Elon Pacific about setting up a call for next week to actually go over that information and get an update for them. So I should be able to provide that to you at the next commission meeting.
Other questions of Daniel relative to this? Okay, we'll move on to the next part of Daniel's report, the RFP scope of work. And even when he's done with that, if you come up with questions relative to the marketing communication, the current flight schedules, we can certainly entertain those questions at the end of his presentation. So Daniel, you want to proceed on the RFP?
Yes. Okay, so the RFP for the marketing and communications plan, again, this will be our plan to take us for the next 3 years and help us figure out how we're going to reach and talk to all different audiences. This one is kind of be like the goal of the whole plan. It's like the city of Palm Springs, we're seeking proposals from qualified consultants to work with me, develop a marketing and communications plan for the airport. We want the plan to be developed to guide the airport's marketing and communication efforts for the next 3 years to reach local passenger and stakeholder audiences within the airport's catchment area. Now, this is what was sent to the marketing committee and reviewed with them. We went through after the meeting and took their feedback, and I wanted to go through and put a couple of items in there that what you see on the screen that's highlighted in yellow, that is what I changed from what was originally presented to the marketing committee. I want to make sure that I added the and communication portion. So anybody that's proposing, I want to make sure it's very clear to them exactly what we're seeking. And I also added the and stakeholder to audiences, because when I was first reading through it, just seeing just passengers, when the airport comes around, when people think about the airport, of course, passengers are the very first thing most people think about a commercial airport, when people fly in and fly out. But there's also many other audiences for an airport to speak and communicate with. There's the businesses that are at the airport, that rely on the airport, they're an audience. The tenants and the staff can be another audience. Businesses in the community that rely on us to bring tourists in for the hotels and restaurants, that's another audience. So I want to make sure a proposer that looks at this, a potential one, knows we don't want to just talk to people who want to fly in, fly out. We want to talk to identify all other audiences that we need to be communicating with. This is kind of the bulk of the scope of the work itself. Again, just it's saying it's going to be a long-term marketing communication plan. We want to have a situational analysis of the current and past marketing, branding, and advertising efforts. That'll be what I've done so far and what I am doing. We'll also talk with the Bureau of Tourism and the CVB to see what they've done in the past, take a full analysis of those and see what's been successful, what hasn't been, and then what's the best way to be moving forward. Identification, with them to identify and define the passenger and then all the internal and external stakeholders, audiences, and emphasize those that live and reside within the airport's catchment area. Again, what's in yellow is just the change I made from what I presented at the marketing committee to what I'm presenting tonight. Again, I just wanted to make sure and clarify that we're not just looking to speak to just passengers, but also any other stakeholders that have an interest and or rely on the airport. The next one, identification and definition of strategic marketing objectives and goals to reach the defined audiences. Again, that defined just goes back up to the adding all stakeholders. Messaging strategy, television, radio, print, digital, social, etc., to reach the defined audiences within the catchment area. And then, of course, defining the channels and tactics, how we're going to reach them to implement various messaging strategies on our earned, owned, and paid media, and how we're going to get the best value to deliver the airport's message. With them define our timelines and the checklists so we can prioritize tasks to meet our goals and our objectives. And then also, and then finally, define a set of metrics so we can measure the success of our advertising campaigns and our efforts to meet our objectives and goals. And then the budget is still the same that I originally presented to you guys at last month's meeting at $40,000. And that is what I have for now. I'll go ahead.
Okay, do you want to turn to Patricia Breslin right now to
Yes,
feedback
and
from the marketing
Patricia,
committee?
I'll let you have it from here.
I'm here. Yes, Daniel, thank you again. And to everybody here, first of all, I want to say the incorporations were, yes, of course, contributions of the marketing members, but also of all of you who contributed the prior time before at the full airport commission. So thank you all. What I want to take a look at specifically is our comfort level from the marketing committee, and anyone of the members from marketing committee, you're welcome to chime in if I misspeak. But we took a look at the scope of work, and one of the comforting levels was that it is reduced to a 3-year plan instead of a 5-year plan. And that was a comfort level because of all the changes that are going on at this time. Also, there was talk about the cost of the plan and the explanation that there is an amount of $45,000 that was not used before that is available. So it didn't seem as though the funding was an issue at this point. The part of the process is to review, and this was a question that came up, is to review the RFPs. The question was that for the review committee, we were informed that appointments of officials, of appointed officials, are not allowed. And so I think, Daniel, were you checking into it,
Yes.
or do we need to? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I did. I reached out to lead procurement for some clarification on that one. So elected officials are not allowed. Anybody that's appointed, so the members of the committee or the commission, you guys could be on it. They said they would need to do a vetting process to make sure there aren't any conflicts of interest, though.
Okay, so I think there is an interest to have the commission represented on the committee to look at the RFPs, but I think the chair can go further into that. Let's see, the chair of the commission. And let's see, the other thing, I appreciate all the comments that you added to your presentation today, because the communication, the stakeholders were really important issues. And of course, our local businesses and the restaurants were also very important elements. So the committee was very comfortable in approving it on our end, and we turn it over to the full commission, unless there are other comments from the marketing members. Any? No?
Ken Hedrick. Ken, unmute yourself. There you go.
So what type of firm are we is being hired? I mean, what
So
type
right-
of firm is going to be responding to this RFP?
So typically, I know one firm that, a local one that's interested is J&S Next. They work with the Bureau of Tourism. They've done marketing and communication plans, a full media company. They are planning to respond to the RFP. Firms similar in fashion to them that do the same type of work. They do, I think the Quotient Group is another company. They are an aviation media marketing firm. They specifically focus on small, basically how the FAA defines a small hub and non-hub airport for helping with marketing and initiatives as well. So those would be kind of the companies we'd expect to respond to this.
And so are you coming up with a list of people to send the RFP to, or are you just publishing a notice and hoping that firms respond?
I am not. So once this, if you guys approve it, this will go over to city procurement, and Lee will put together the full final RFP. What you're seeing for that won't change. They have to have, there's certain things the city requires, basically boilerplate they have to put into it. And there's a system that they publish it into that, I guess, I forget the name of it is, exactly how it works, but it publishes out, it goes on the city's website, and there's an RFP, I guess a place where people go to check these. I'm new to this, so I'm learning a little bit along with you as well. But I also plan to, well, I'm wondering, I guess, would we want to put on, so I'll have to ask city procurement if we want to put on our social media, I don't know for the airport, if we would or not.
Sure.
But I do know it gets published to the city's website, and there is a service that they can publish it to that I believe goes out to whoever's signed up to be a member of it.
There's two aspects of it. We can identify firms by name that we know are likely to be interested, and so we can give those names to procurement. They will mail them and notify them directly, as well as they will post it for anybody who is searching for opportunities for them to compete as well. So it's both.
And the $40,000, is that the max, or that's what we estimate?
That's estimating. Well, for me, it's a max. I don't want to go over that, but the estimate. So I've talked to the two companies that I know are going to bid on it, where they said they would come in at would be somewhere between a $35,000 and $40,000 range. So very comfortable with that. Other airports that I've spoken to that have gotten bids to do something similar, most of the bids were coming in between $35,000 and $40,000 as well. So I don't expect, nor do I want to exceed $40,000.
Thank you very much for the info.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, David.
Yes, David?
Can you just remind me what the marketing budget for the airport is now?
The total one, so there's not actually a marketing budget per se, because the department wasn't here before me, but there's two, the marketing and advertising, there's two separate budget items. Those added together is currently $102,000.
Okay, and as part of the scope of the RFP, for them to give us some comparables for other airports and what they spend, because 100,000 is not really any material amount of money, and I think it would be useful for them to give us sort of market comparison data across other sort of regional airports of our size.
Right, I agree with you. I definitely would like to see a more robust marketing budget, and I think one will definitely come out of this. But as far as doing research from other airports, it is not currently in the scope of work right now for them to do that. That's something we could add if the commission would like to do that. I'm currently in the process of reviewing, I've been requesting from what I consider peer airports. I've done an analysis of some airports in the US, similar in size, similar in demographics, tourism, and kind of come up with a list of 10 airports I consider our peers, and I'm requesting copies of their budgets and taking a look at them and seeing for comparison, like how much what they're spending on certain aspects of their airports as well.
Yeah, I think some of that base benchmarking is important here.
Yeah, it's a very good question, David. Are there other questions from commissioners? This is an action item. We're being asked to recommend the issuance of the request to the RFP for a 3-year marketing and communications plan and to approve the proposed scope of work. But I want to be sure we have any other questions responded to before we move on. Okay, Ken?
I make a motion that we approve going forward with this RFP.
Second.
Very good. Who seconded that?
I second.
Rolf, or, okay. Okay, any further discussion? I'll call for the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimously supported. Thank you very much, Daniel, for this.
Thank you.
And thank you for working so closely with Patricia Breslin and the marketing committee as well.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Very good. All right, we move on now to the executive director and staff reports. So I turn back now to, everybody keeps changing. Where did you go, Ulysses, on my screen? I know you're here somewhere. Are you there? Okay, you ended up going somewhere else. I don't know which screen you're on now. Okay. Oh, there you are. You moved screens. Oh, I found you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for that support for Daniel and the development of a marketing and communications plan. So greatly appreciate it. So with that, just a couple of things before I open up to introduce the PowerPoint presentation. One thing is last time we identified the fact that there was going to be a testing for COVID starting here at the airport. COVID clinics started testing on January 2nd, which was on a Saturday. Again, they are set up right along KDW, just as you come off of Ramon going toward the central terminal area. So they have a drive-through facility with an indoor table where people can get their printed results in the event that they need them for travel. And again, right now, there isn't any requirement for any passenger traveling through Palm Springs to actually need that documentation as of yet. But for those returning to Canada, many of you know that Canada is requesting a test, a PCR test, as well as a 14-day quarantine upon arrival at Canada. So this is something that those travelers going back to Canada can take advantage of. So that was COVID clinic started January 2nd. Jeff Mitch is with us. He's the USO manager. He requested and we approved that they are going to do some accent painting on the exterior of Hangar 1, which is the hangar just to the north of the terminal. They want to spruce up the front of the building, so they're going to do some accents painting on the wall right outside of their main entrance. So for those of you who are going to pass by here, you'll be able to see a little bit of enhancement on that building. And they are going to do that with donations and volunteered labor force as well. So thank you, Jeff, for making that commitment to the airport and to the USO. With that, allow me to share my screen and hold on real quick. So with that, Chairman Jones talked about the benches and the ashtrays that were painted. They are all complete right now. All the 8 benches and so forth are right by the center part of the terminal. If you can see those, this is to the south side toward the ticket lobby area. There's 1 bench here. There's 2 benches and ashtrays back over here, and another set of benches and ashtrays right over here. And then to the north side of that center area, there's 1 bench here, 2 benches, 2 ashtrays back there, and then another bench and 2 ashtrays here. So here are some of the benches in close up, as well as the artist who painted those. All these benches here are on the south side of the center area. So you'll see that there's a theme of kind of a Palm Springs or a travel theme with some suitcases here. Obviously the windmill to the north of the airport, and then the boarding pass here on the lower right-hand side by Gavin Dick. So here is the benches on the north side of the entrance, and you'll see a little bit more diverse theme here. by 3 different artists. And then here are the respective trash cans, I'm sorry, that are right next to those benches and the artists associated with that. So some very creative ideas, as well as the detail and the artistry and the commitment to their attention to detail on some of these are very, very noteworthy and so forth. So those are again finished, and we're happy to have those with us. So any questions on the benches? Al, anything you want to share?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is encourage the commissioners, if you haven't had a chance to stop by the airport, just to see these in person. They're really quite stunning what they've been doing. And this was patterned after painting the benches in downtown Palm Springs by the Arts Commission. So we were working, Ann Shepard is the one who came both to David Redding and myself and proposed this. I think the designs are very creative. One of the things we need to consider doing, and by the way, when you come in person, you need to just take a peek and see the whole ticketing area too. It will give you a sense of in person of what's really been going on in terms of the capital improvements here to benefit passengers. But we need to, if you can get a sense of seeing what these benches look like, as well as the trash cans, what the Arts Commission had asked us to do, and we would need to put this on for a future agenda item, is to ask, and according to the city manager, this would have to be a decision and discussion and action by the full airport commission, whether we wanted to continue the idea of painting benches past security into the secure part of the airport. If you like that idea. So Ulysses, that needs to be on the agenda at some future item. But I just wanted to plant that idea in your mind. If you can get a chance to see what they look like in person. These are great photographs that Ulysses provided here. It gives you a pretty good sense of what it is. But are there any questions about what Ulysses has shared here about the benches? There was no cost to the airport on these, by the way. This came totally from the Arts Commission. Well, if not, turn it back to you, Ulysses, and continue with your report.
Okay. Next, on December 27th, 2020, a little bit over 3 weeks ago, the federal government, many of you know, passed additional coronavirus relief for a lot of different industries and a lot of different individuals per se. The airports received some of that money, $2 billion worth, and out of that $2 billion, Palm Springs apparently is going to receive a total of about $4.7 million. The 4.4 on the left-hand side can be used for operations personnel, cleaning and sanitation, janitorial services for combating the spread of pathogens, and also be able to do debt service payments. Just want to let you know that this is the initial high-level summary of what the monies can be used for. As we all know, and those of us who work with the federal government on a daily basis, the devil is in the details. And so we won't know exactly how we can use that money per se until we get additional details. The first release of any real information came out yesterday, 11 pages, and it was more in a frequently asked questions as opposed to any real document that we can really hang our hats on. So we're excited to get additional funding available to us. We have to commit it and obligate it by September 30th, but we also have up to 4 years, it appears like, to use the money. So it just has to be obligated before the end of the federal fiscal year, but then we have additional time to use it. So, and then on the right side is some money that slated to be used for concessions in the form of concession relief toward rent or through the minimum annual guarantee. Again, we'll be able to figure out how we can best utilize that money for our concessionaires here at the airport once we get further details from the federal government. Any questions on that? Okay. As Al talked about, sorry, Commissioner Jones, Chairman Jones talked about, here are some pictures regarding the project. This is the current condition of the terminal lobby. Yesterday, this is standing in the center area looking toward the south. We had ticket counters for Alaska, American, and United turned over back to us first week of December. You've seen these pictures before, and here is looking north in the opposite direction. We have this McCain wall here, which there's work going on behind it. I just wanted to show you this because the next couple of pictures are showing what's going to happen behind that McCain wall. In this public area here, right now, they're still working on the ceiling and on the lights. And so back behind that McCain wall, this is what the current condition was yesterday. This is looking from the south, or looking toward the south, and this is looking toward the north. You can see a lot of construction area, but you can see the wall over here, on the other side, obviously over here. The ticket counters will be right underneath this area right here. You got the columns right over here and the kiosks over there. So I'm just going to go back to the pictures before so you can orient yourself on what kind of is happening. So as you see here, the back wall back there, the columns right up into here, and then the kiosk, as you can see, right up in this area over here. So this area right here is behind the McCain wall here, and this area right now is on target to be finished up by the middle of February, approximately February 15th. This wall will come down and our lobby hopefully will all look like this from up on the upper end of it, on the north end, just north of the stairs or that ramp that leads down to the south end. So this will all be carpeted, all open with all lights finished, ceiling finished, and everything else. So that is going to start happening right at the middle of February. And so again, that's what it looks like in the back there right now. This is back in our baggage handling system in our screening room. We can see some of the baggage conveyor systems being built out in the back. This is on one side of it. And this is over here where bags will come from the front lobby, as well as this is a tunnel that leads out to the sidewalk. So these are small installments back in the screening room, which we're excited to see. So right now, we have 2 airline ticket offices for Alaska and American that are going to be complete over the weekend, with Alaska and American Airlines being the first 2 airlines that are going to finally move into the airline ticket office. So that's another milestone for us. So you kind of see how they're finishing off there. Outside, in prior slides that I've shared with you, you have seen that they have finished carousels B and C, as they're being called, the ones furthest north. And I've shown pictures of a carousel, the 3rd one that was under construction. This is that 3rd carousel, and you can see it is pretty much complete. So we are approaching full completion of all 3 carousels in the back. There's still some connectivity that needs to occur, but for the most part, the carousels are done. And then the final thing I just want to share with you is this is some excavation, some site work being done that will have the new electrical transformer and backup generator being installed for the baggage handling system in this area. You can see excavation and conduit being installed in those trenches areas. And these are some tie-ins to our HVAC system for our hot and cold water tie-ins. These right now are the last planned excavation work. So once these are backfilled, they'll be able to compact the ground and put in the asphalt overlay on this, and that will complete the project on the backside from an asphalt and earth moving perspective. So those are those are that's the project in general. So just wanted to share those with you. Any questions on the project itself?
Any questions for the executive director?
Chairman Jones, that's the staff report and presentations I had.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for continuing to do such an outstanding job. For Ulysses to take over this responsibility, the 1st of July has been really quite a challenge and a very challenging time. And it's incredible the progress that we've made under his leadership in just these last 6 months into the 7th month now. And I really applaud you, Ulysses, for staying on top of these projects, moving them forward. I can't wait for us to get past COVID-19. I think all of us do, but I can't wait to see the excitement when the airport returns to the same level of passenger traffic that we had before, and more so, because the enhancements that have been made right now are going to be so evident to the flying public, and will really speak well even further for the airport. So I, on behalf of the entire commission, I do thank you, Ulysses. You've done a tremendous job in continuing to move this forward in a very difficult time. We move next to the commissioner requests and reports. First of all, I'm going to turn to Gerald Adams. We got cut short in December meeting, but Gerald, you were going to report on the sustainability and the demonstration gardens.
Right. So for those of you that are not familiar with it, this would be the corridor going from the terminal out to the fountain. It's currently a grass area with landscaping and flowers on either side. That's the area they're focusing on first. We met with Patrick Tallarico from the Office of Sustainability on November 24th. They went over some of the initial plans, choices of plants, what kind of look they're going for, things like that. And we hope to meet with them again once they finalize the plan, and also have another subcommittee, landscape subcommittee meeting, and then present it to the general commission for approval. So
Great,
the other
thank
thing is, as you mentioned earlier with the benches, one of the things in the new design they're talking about, they would have 4 benches along there for people to sit, and they would like to also have those painted if that's an option down the road when they finalize the design. So I
Okay,
just want to
great.
put that out there in case that's something, how would we approach that?
It's good. Thank you, Gerald. Any questions for Gerald? Guillermo?
No, we should mention that we went over 100 plants and it was quite interesting to go through the selection process with the team.
It was over 2 hours.
Yes.
And how many plants?
Was it 120?
120 were on the list.
Yes.
Oh my
So
heavens, I didn't
it's
know.
quite an exhaustive planning and vetting process.
We learned a lot.
Well, then you'll be able to lead us through there once it's in and explain every plant to us, can't you?
I'm not sure about that, but we
Okay.
hope they will look very nice.
Well, yeah, we appreciate the work that you're doing on this. It's very important in terms of sustainability and what we're trying to achieve here in the community. Are there other commissioner requests or reports? Going once, going twice. Okay, you guys are just so quiet tonight. It's almost frightening. All right, we're moving on to the report of the city council action items. Those are in your agenda packet. There is no airline activity report yet. That will be forthcoming, but the airlines have not yet submitted all that we need. There is no correspondence, nothing to receive and file. Let me ask, is there any last minute comment or question by anyone before we go into adjournment? Can you all hear me? This is so quiet tonight. This is scary. Okay.
Actually,
Hey, you know what? I shouldn't like a gift horse in the mouth, should I? I should just keep going and.
no, too
All
late,
right.
too late. I have
Too
a
late.
question.
Thank you, Patricia.
I forgot to ask what the process is for the selection of the people for the committee to review the RFP process. And maybe, I don't know the process, or is there one that is currently going on, or?
You mean for the representatives from the commission on that committee?
Yeah,
That typically is done by procurement with the input from the executive director and also from me as chairman of the commission. So
okay,
that would be the process. And I think and usually we're limited to maybe 2 at most representatives from the commission. So, but I'll have a conversation with the executive director and we can move forward from there.
so I just wanted to say, if anyone is interested, you know, they should speak to you or to, right.
Right. Well, or you, Patricia, you're chair of the committee. Okay. Well, if there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Patricia moves. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, Paul, I'm not sure who said that, but Paul raised his hand and I think, Rolf, that was your voice. So you kind of fight it out who seconded. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you all. This was a great meeting. Thank you. We'll see you again in February.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.